Welcome into Daggerheart characters. It's time for another class build. This was inspired. This is very much homebrew. This would be a little bit tougher to get okayed at your table, but I think, if you have a looser table in terms of being able to do some fun stuff, lots of fun ahead here with the Therianthropy class build. So my apologies if I don't know how to pronounce that correctly. I googled what that is anyways to begin with, to end up with the result of the name of this class. For the domains, as you can see, I have 3 domains listed. So it starts out with the Midnight domain at first level and the Bone domain at first and second tiers, I should say, not level. For third tier, the Bone domain disappears, Midnight domain stays, and the Blade domain kicks in. And then for the 4th tier, the Blade domain returns, the Midnight domain's gone, and the Bone domain comes back. The reason for this is the Midnight domain 4th tier stuff, the 8th, 9th level stuff, is very necrotic, very... I would not say werewolf or werebear-y. By the way, if you didn't know what Therianthropy is, now you know. You're getting there, at least, in terms of where we're going with this. Werewolf, werebear, were-animals, I don't feel like that's like that necrotic, summoning up a demon, midnight spirit to come and haunt your foes and scare them. That's not really, that's... outside of the primal zone of what these supernatural creatures are. So that doesn't work. Bone, of course, I think that makes very much sense with being part bear, part wolf, whatever. And then the Blade domain, I think, also makes very much sense into why that would be. And you could call it cherry picking, but this is what I came up with in terms of the onboarding and the offboarding of the tiers to make it make sense, to make it all work together, to work around that issue, and yeah, in a sense to cherry pick, but like cherry picking things that I felt fit this werewolf, werebear thing that we're going for. So believe me, it's not like it's OP, it's not that cherry picked. We're still getting the same amount of options at each card level. So there we go. Starting evasion 11, starting hit points 6. I would say too, by doing this, that does kind of like put a little bit of less stress on the rest of the table if you're actually using cards around the table and you have a limited amount of selection. And it feels like this game was actually designed with that in mind in terms of people are not supposed to be doubling up on cards around the table, so everybody is doing different things. So if that is part of how your table operates, although this pulls from 3 different, domains, it also pulls from like the Blade domain less, and also the Bone and the Midnight domain each less. So it does kind of open that up a little bit in terms for some other people at the table, in a way. Class items, a lunar phase watch if you've got any kind of technology, depending on where your campaign is taken, that might not really be an option. In which case, then you're stuck with the journal, which you use to track the lunar phases. Either way, you are tracking the lunar phases. Deal with it. Holy cow. We do need a period at the end of that. For the Therianthropes Hope feature, we have Full Moon. Spend 3 hope when you succeed on an attack roll while transformed. Use that same roll against all adversaries within very close range of yourself. We will define transformed in a moment. Right here. Class features. Transformation token. At the end of a long rest, you gain an amount of transformation tokens equal to your spellcast trait. When you expend a transformation token, you can clear a stress or an armor slot, and you become transformed, which allows use of specific features that can only be used while transformed. So, transformed, it's a condition. The transformed condition ends after a prolonged period, and I do have descriptors of what a prolonged period is below, where you have not made an attack roll against an adversary or when you began a rest. You cannot hold a number of transformation tokens greater than your spellcast trait. Another way to say, you can't carry them over from one rest to another. While transformed, gain a +1 bonus to your attack rolls. So when you go to transform, you get to clear a stress or an armor slot, I think it was. And while you're transformed, you gain a +1 bonus to your attack rolls. When does your transformation condition end? Well, the transformation condition should be treated treat the transformation condition like an adrenaline rush. It could take anywhere from a few minutes to an hour for the transformation to subside. This should be determined by the intensity of the fight itself and the level of expectation that another fight, quote-unquote, could be around the next corner. The more intense the previous battle that you just got done with, and the higher that the expectation that another fight is, once again, quote-unquote, just around the next corner, the longer that the transformation condition stays. Just like, if you get in a near car crash, you get that rush of adrenaline. Usually, I would say, within 5 minutes, that adrenaline rush, at least, has worn off. You still might be a little bit shaken or something like that, but that actual, what's making your body shake, that adrenaline rush, gone. Now, if you were in a horror movie and you are running away from Michael Myers, you're Laurie Strode, oh my gosh, and you're running away, your adrenaline's going to last much longer, right? And even once you got away, but the threat is still out there, your adrenaline's going to continue once you get into that closet. If you're in that closet for 20 minutes, your adrenaline is still going because you know that there's a killer in the house looking for you. That's the idea here, if that wasn't clear. If you really need some mechanics to it, if it's easier for you or your GM, you can roll a 1d4, make this a little bit more random after each fight to determine how long until the transformation ends. If it lands on a 1, you get 15 minutes more. If another fight doesn't start within the next 15 minutes, you lose the transformation. Same with, for a 2, it's 30 minutes, for a 3, 45 minutes, for a 4, an hour. Once again, a few minutes to an hour. The dice, well, I guess it's a minimum of 15 minutes. That's the advantage to the dice. But hopefully you can just roleplay it out and figure it out roughly. And you also get one more little feature here, Nature Touched. You can speak the language of the beast world. When you want to speak to animals around you, make an instinct roll of 12. On a success, they'll give you the information that they know. On a roll with fear, their knowledge might be limited or come at a cost. There you go. On to the Therianthropy. There we go. Subclasses. Choose either the Lycanthrope or the Ursinthrope. And for the Lycanthrope, it's the werewolf. If you want to play the werewolf, that's the one. Your spellcast trait for this would be agility, because the Midnight Domain does have some spells. And so for the foundation features here, Pack Hunter. While transformed, one of those abilities, you got to be transformed to use it. When you make a successful attack, while within melee range of the target, and an ally is within melee range of the target, deal an additional d6 physical damage equal to your proficiency. You gain a hope whether you rolled with hope or fear. And then you also get Precision Strike. You miss your target, or did you? Once per rest, when you fail an attack roll against a single target, you may mark a stress to make the target temporarily vulnerable. That's going to bring us on to the specialization features for our werewolf. And first, you get improved senses. While transformed, you do not have disadvantage against targets who are hidden. That's a condition. And always aware. You gain advantage on rolls made to recognize any hidden creatures within far range. So obviously these can work together quite nicely pre-battle. Well, you're always aware, and when the battle starts, you're aware of where they are. You find them, you attack them, and you're not attacking them at disadvantage because you're aware of where they are and you found them. And that's going to bring us on to the Mastery feature, where you get counterattack. While transformed, when a creature within melee range would deal damage to you, you can make an agility reaction roll against the creature to avoid the attack, and you can immediately make an attack against them. So there's you avoid attack, make a counterattack. You gain advantage on the attack roll, and you deal an additional 2d20 physical damage on a successful attack. Ain't that nice? Real nice, flavorful, simple final mastery feature. That's the thing about why also here I think, make an effort here to ensure that we're not overpowering this class. So all the more reason that if you want to play the werewolf or the werebear, I think that your GM should say, yes, let's look at that werebear. The Ursinthrope, if you want to play a werebear. Spellcasting trait for this is strength. The only strength spellcast in the game at this point, based on what I've created and what is in the core book at least. Now let's look at the foundation features. Forceful Strike. While transformed, when you make a successful attack, While within melee range of the target, they are knocked back to very close range. You gain a hope whether you rolled with hope or fear. I feel like that came out weird. While transformed, when you make a successful attack, while within melee range of the target, they are knocked back to very close range. So you knock them back, and you gain a hope whether you rolled with hope or fear, just like the foundation feature for the wolf. Primal knowledge. Mark a stress to make an attack against a target within melee range. On a success, in addition to your damage roll, the target is restrained until they break free with a successful strength roll. Obviously, that is intended against you. This is exact wordage from the book, so don't try to say, oh, you should have more clarifying language. That's the language in the book for a very similar, a different feature that does a similar thing ultimately there. And then we got the specialization feature, Stand in the Way. While transformed, when an ally within far range would take damage, you can mark a stress to shield your ally by making yourself the target of the attack instead. When you take damage from this attack, you can mark any number of armor slots. Sounds pretty familiar. And you get extra padding. You gain a +4 bonus to your major damage threshold and a +1 bonus to your armor score. And then for your mastery feature, gosh, I'll never get this right, you get a bear die. While transformed, or more, I think it's just one, when you take minor damage, you gain a bear die, which is represented by 1d6. When you would take damage, you can use the bear die to reduce the severity of the damage by 1 threshold. When you do, roll the bear die. On a result of 3 or lower, you lose the bear die. Otherwise, you can continue using that same bear die. Otherwise, if you lose it, you gotta wait until you take minor damage again before you can gain another one. You can only have 1 bear die in your possession at any given time, which is fine, right? And if you have a bear die when you begin a rest, you can roll it to regain that many armor slots. Ain't that but nice? So there you go, and that's any rest, right? So it's basically just an extra short rest feature. And then for a long rest, an extra long rest too, potentially, depending on how well you roll that dice and how many armor slots you need to recover. So there we go. Those are the werewolf and the werebear classes. I hope you like those. Did you like them? Let me know. I would be interested. I thought I did a pretty good job with those. This was a very random, came together to make this. That happens, you know. Sometimes you just get inspired by something, and then it works out. I don't remember what inspired this, or how I ended up coming up with the midnight bone and blade domain thing there. But I then looked into that and check out the cards. I think that works nice flavorfully for the werewolf and werebear flavor. You know. That's it, guys. Thank you so much. If you liked it, if you want more, subscribe. If you liked it, others might like it too, so then you should like and comment so that way YouTube promotes this to other people. Bye-bye.